What's up, everybody? It's Joey G for another edition of Joey G, keeping it real. What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to talk about the dick bag. And what the dick bag is wrestlers and some entertainers I don't like, mainly wrestlers. And first off, you heard me before say this, Shane Douglas. Troy, I think Martin is your name. This dude, just to get in, he likes to bury the Kliq. And if anybody knows, I am I'm a member. I am a Kliq fan. I'm a Shawn Michaels fan. He's my favorite wrestler. Along with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. And Sean Waltman. X-Pac, 1, 2, 3 Kid, 6-Pac. I like 6-Pac. 6 is my favorite name for him. 6-Pac. That 6 shirt he used to have in the NWO, that shit was fat. And I don't really like Triple H. You know what I mean? I do like Justin Incredible, PJ Walker, Altoya Maioya, whatever the frig his name was back in the day in WWE. He's also like the stepchild of the Kliq. A couple other Road Dogg was like a stepchild of the Kliq. Louis Spicoli, Radford, he's a stepchild of the Kliq. Anyway, Shane Douglas is one of them guys, you know what I mean, that blame the Kliq. You know what I mean? I just want to, for everything that went wrong. And Shane Douglas, I hear you talk about Shawn Michaels and he's a bad person and all this. And stop. I mean, you're a dick. You're going right in the dick bag. You suck. You're the ECW champion. That's it. Here in Philadelphia. You worked at the ECW arena, and I used to go, and I met you in person, and you're a dick. You're a dick. I mean, straight up. I saw you at the Armory a few years ago, and when I started chanting HBK is specifically just to piss you off, Troy. Shane. Well, his real name's Troy, everybody. And, he had no rap. I remember he was looking up to me the corner of his eye, but he wouldn't say nothing. I was nice to your kids, like I said before. You know what I mean? But you're always that Dean Douglas guy. And you just sucked. And here's a little story for you. He likes to bury Shawn. And like a lot of these wrestlers bury Shawn. I'm going to defend Shawn. You know what I mean? Because I don't like how they say, oh, I think the Christian things will work, and I think that whole religious things will work. It's not a work. Okay? I mean, I don't know Shawn Michaels personally. I've met him. I don't know him like that personally. But, I mean, if you hear him talk, okay, on interviews, if I heard plenty of them, recently, you know what I mean? He's generally a Christian man, okay? He makes mistakes. I mean, you got Hurricane Helms, another loser, okay, the big L, you know what I'm saying? And he's talking, oh, Shawn, I want to fucking beat him up, excuse me, I want to beat his ass, I want to do this, I tried to be his friend. He's a great performer, but as a person, he's just an evil person. Okay, back in the day, Shawn did, he didn't hold people down. You can't hold talent down. If you're good, whoever the promoter is, Vince McMahon, Paul Heyman, Eric Bischoff, Jim Cornette, Kevin Kelly, whoever the Dixie Carter, whoever the promoter is, if you're good and you can draw, they're going to see. So I hate hearing that from these people like Adam Bomb, Wrath. I mean, Luther, you are a bomb. I mean, this guy, Brian Clark, actually took a shot at Shawn Michaels' wife, Rebecca, who's a devoted Christian woman, and said, well, the joke's on Shawn because he ended up marrying a Nitro girl who ran through the whole roster of WCW, and he has a kid with her, so the rib's on him. Brian Clark, you're just a hater, bro. And 2 words for you, brother. Suck it. No, for real. Kliq style, all right? Just a loser, like these losers. Okay, one guy that is not a loser, but he did talk a lot of shit on the Kliq. 2 guys, really. And Chris Candido never really talked, God rest his soul, I liked Chris Candido. And the reason Chris Candido and Shawn Michaels never really got along is because they were like the same person. Candido was just a couple years younger. You know what I mean? He was like 4 or 5 years younger than Shawn. That's like 4 years younger. You know what I mean? And Shawn, I can understand Shawn was banging Tammy, a.k.a. Sonny. You all know Sonny. And that was, the Kliq did. I mean, that's the truth. They would watch Vince McMahon let Shawn use his office, and Kevin Nash or Scott or Pac or Triple H, somebody would watch Vince's office, and he would bang Sonny. And I heard they took turns on Sonny. I heard Scott Hall was banging her too. So, I know Scott was married, but, like it really mattered to Scott. Kevin didn't, but I did hear that, Scott Hall was hitting it too, and there was a rumor Sean Waltman, the kid, was hitting it, Pac. All these guys, though, talk about the Kliq, and they still talk about it, like Bob Holly. They said to Bob Holly, and Bob Holly, I like, he's a good worker. I met him. I don't know, I kind of know him. I've seen him a lot of times. His big push in his career was when he became Hardcore Holly. But I mean, they said, name your 3 biggest crybabies in all of you ever in the business. And he said, Scott Hall, Scott Hall, Scott Hall. And they asked him, like, how would Scott, complain or his bits? And he said, well, Scott, would we be over in a different time zone? And Scott would be like, man, it's 7 o'clock back east, back home, back in New York, or back in Florida, man. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. Like, that's just Scott, man. I'm like that. You can ask anybody that knows me, that hangs out with me. I'm like that. I complain a lot. You know what I mean? And cry, baby. I bitch a lot. You know what I mean? And that's why I identify with dudes like the Click. Because back in the day, I was had an attitude just like Shawn Michaels. I was cutthroat. If you weren't with my crew, I didn't like you. I don't care who you were. No, for real. If you weren't within my 3 good friends, buddies, you know what I mean? Back in 1995 to 2001. If you weren't with my Click, I didn't like you. I didn't care who you were. I would do whatever. I'm not going to go into it. You know what I mean? But I don't care. I don't care if I shook your hand and then you turned your back and I'd stab you right in the back. I mean, that was me back then. But I changed. You know what I mean? Everybody changes. And I hate this. I mean, and I'm not preaching. But I mean, everybody comment at Shawn Michaels. I mean, I just don't. I mean, and Bret Hart too, even though, they hate each other. But Bret Hart buries Shawn, but Bret Hart can do that. Because Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels have put on the greatest wrestling matches ever. You know what I mean? Together, with each other, and with other opponents. But Bret can say that, okay? But other guys like Sugar, what do you call it? Shane Helms? You know what I mean? Shane Douglas? I mean, come on. I mean, Bam Bam Bigelow, I can understand. I mean, I don't know where Bam Bam's conflicted. God rest his soul, Bam Bam died. That's another show I want to do, too. There's too many wrestlers that died and are so bad of shape now. I'm going to do that in an upcoming show as well. But it's just, they bury Shawn. I mean, and just to say, like, oh, that's a work. His Christian, it's a work. It's not a work. You could just tell, but I mean, if it is a work, he's a great actor than Shawn. And my hat's off to him anyway. He's a friggin' great actor. I mean, but anyway, I want to get on to this other thing. Okay, wrestlers nowadays. I mean, like the guys that in my age group that we grew up with, like Bret Hart, like Harley Race. I mean, Harley Race is paralyzed from the waist down. I mean, it's like you get old, you're born, you get, in your prime of your life, in your teenager, in your early 20s, you know what I mean, early 30s, and then you get old. And then you die. And like the wrestlers, like they go through that life and it just kills them. I mean, Mr. Perfect, Road Warrior Hulk, Crash Holly, so many. I mean, Big John Studd, Andre's gone, Yokozuna, Rikishi, not Rikishi, who else? There's so many that died. I'm saying Rikishi. Rikishi ain't dead. So many that, I mean, just passed. Sherry Martel. There's just they all, just passed. I mean, Brian Pillman, Davey Boy Smith. We all know what happened to Owen. Eddie Guerrero. You know what I mean? Chris Benoit. You know what I mean? It's just Blackjack Mulligan just recently. Dusty Rhodes, Roddy Piper. I mean, these are dudes that, I mean, and you look at even some of the old wrestlers now, and I'll give it to Hulk Hogan. Out of all of them, I mean, and Nash, I mean, Hall looks a little banged up, but Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, they all look, good. Hulk Hogan, you look at some of the dudes back in Hogan's era and look at Hogan. You know what I mean? It's because they were banging them steroids back in the day. And like Jake the Snake. Jake the Snake's one of my favorites of all time. Jake the Snake's looking old. I mean, he's looking his age. I mean, and Jake the Snake like he said, back in the 80s, early 90s, you were working all week, 5 days a week, 5 nights a week, you know what I mean, plus TV, and then on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, you were doing doubles. You were doing a 1 o'clock show in Baltimore and an 8 o'clock show in Philly, you know what I mean? And then, or likewise, you're doing a 1 o'clock show in Philly and doing an 8 o'clock show at the Garden in New York. So, you know what I mean? And same thing on the West Coast. You're doing a show at the LA Sports Arena at 1 o'clock, and then you're doing at 8 o'clock, you're doing a show in Anaheim. You know what I'm saying? Or at the Forum. You know what I mean? If it's same thing with NWA. And you look at these wrestlers nowadays, and it's so, Randy Savage, one of my favorites, is gone. I mean, it's only a matter of time before Ric Flair passes. I mean, Ric Flair's, I saw him in that sit-down interview on the network, and check that out. Him and Charlotte on the network interview, and Michael Cole's asking Charlotte about, how will she, can she beat Natalya at Extreme Rules without her dad in her corner? It's a good interview. I don't want to spoil it for you, but check it out on the network. But another plug. You're welcome. What do you call it? Rick just looks old. And I go back and I look at like the network at some Clash of the Champions back in '89, even like when he was in the WWE in '92 when he won the Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? When he came in with the NWA World, the big gold belt. You know, I mean, he looked young. Even like the NWO days. I mean, back in Nitro. I mean, I was watching a Nitro from the night after Randy Savage won the title at World War III '95, and Flair was out there when Elizabeth stole his money. And Flair, I mean, even I got to remember, I mean, it seems like yesterday to me. I mean, that was 1995, 96, 97, you know. But Flair looks so young. I mean, now he's like an old man. He is. I mean, he's older than Hogan. He's 2 years older than Hogan, Ric Flair. So, but Hulk Hogan, out of all of them, I mean, I'm not, Nash and Hall, they're a generation before Hogan. You know, they were the new generation. But, like, Hogan's just, I mean, he, you know, out of all of them, he looks the best. I mean, you know, health-wise. I mean, Piper's going, Dusty Rhodes, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, Brian Pillman died right before the Attitude Era. Well, right, I think the Attitude Era started that was right when it was starting to go off. I mean, can you imagine Brian Pillman? Brian Pillman's one of my favorites of all time. You know what I mean? The thing is, what Brian Pillman was planning on going back to WCW. That was his plan all along. He had a plan. I don't know why I'm saying this, but what do you call it? With him was, everybody says, what would happen if Brian Pillman would have never died? What would have happened? Well, it's hard to, you know what I mean? I think he wanted to go back to WCW. And Dave Meltzer knew him. He was real close with him. And Dave Meltzer said he wanted to go back to WCW. And he said to Bischoff at that time when he left in February of '96, he said, you know, Eric, there's a lot of talent right now. And he knew that Nash and Hall Hall gave his notice. He knew Scott Hall was coming in. There was already mad talent there. Brian Pillman said, let me go somewhere else. He was originally supposed to go to ECW. He wasn't going to go. He wasn't planning on going to WWE until WWE saw him in ECW. He said to Eric, I'll go to ECW, get my character over, and then I'll come back here in about a year. I'll go down there, but he got in an accident and he got hurt. And then he went to WWE. I don't know if Brian Pillman's career ever would have been the same. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you what, Brian Pillman and Steve Austin during that Attitude Era, you imagine what that would have been like, the Hollywood Blondes on opposite sides of each other? Wow. I mean, we saw a little bit of it in '97, but we didn't see nearly what a full-fledged feud could have been between Austin and Brian Pillman. You know what I mean? But just in general, Rick Rude, another one of my favorites. He died in '99. I mean, I love Rick Rude. I just love Rick Rude. When he had Cheryl Robertson on his crotch, on his tights, when he went out in the crowd and kissed. I mean, just wrestlers get old, and like Sting looks still healthy. I mean, he does. He don't look 57 years old. I mean, but this guy, I mean, I can imagine what Randy Savage would look like. I mean, Randy Savage, when he died, he looked friggin' had a big white beard, white hair. I mean, rest in peace, Macho. For real. One of my favorites of all time. But this is Joey G. You know what I mean? The future of WWE doesn't look really that exciting. I'm going to pitch one thing to everybody real quick, and I'll get on another show about this, my future booking, and the way I would pitch it. But it's just something I would do. You got to turn Roman Reigns heel. I know I'm always on this, but I'm going to stay on it, and I'm going to let you fans all friggin' know that I'm not going to shut up and stop bitching about this until Roman Reigns turns heel. And this is what you do. You form the Roman Empire, but you don't do it with the Usos, because doing it with the Usos would just be like a big Samoan SWAT team, okay? And it would suck. This is what you do, the Roman Empire. You get Eva Marie in there with him right away. I know she's got a boyfriend, but who knows? She'd probably get in there with Roman. And Roman, I think, is married. I don't know his stat, or he's divorced, but he does have a daughter. He's separated. I think he's separated and he has a daughter. Get Eva Marie in there. She's already hated. You got heat. You know, Roman's already got heat. You got it when you got to make him a legitimate heel. You got to get him coming at the crowd. Like, make him do, you know what I mean? You got to think outside the box. You got to make him a hateable heel. You know what I'm saying? And you put Gallows and Anderson with them. You put them, and then Finn Balor's going to win back the NXT title. Because Samoa Joe's getting called up to the main roster. So Finn Balor's going to win back. You bring Samoa Joe in. That's it. There's your Roman Empire. Gallows and Anderson, Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns, and Eva Marie. I don't know if you want to pick a manager. I was kind of thinking this. Have Paul Heyman do a swerve and leave Brock Lesnar. We don't know Brock can kick ass by himself. We've seen it before. You know what I mean? That would be, and have Paul Heyman represent him. I think that would be good. Yeah, Brock come back, and what's going on, Paul, and then you build for a new Roman versus Brock feud with Brock being the face, Roman being the heel. Money. This is Joey G. I'm out. Peace.